Hey, how you doing? Welcome back to the lovely video reviews. I'm hoping things are well. I'm hoping that you're doing good, and I'm hoping that you're improving in your life, whatever you're doing. And this is something to help you really, educate yourself and take some investment time into yourself too, because it's really important for that. So, I have a really interesting book today. Actually a very long book. It's very in depth. When I mean in depth, it's just there's a lot of material here, and it's about 170 pages, which is a pretty big book. Depends on how you read and how you're assessed, whatever you're going to do. But the book of the review today is called Friend and Foe, and it's by Adam Galinsky and Maurice Schweitzer. And it's when to cooperate, when to compete, and how to succeed at both. Very interesting book. And it really talks in depth about competition and how competition can be really good. But it depends on who your competition is with. And so that's kind of why it's titled Friend and Foe, because your friend could be your foe. Your foe could be your friend. And I think it kind of goes both ways, and we're going to review that. So this is a 2015, so it's not 100% outdated, but it's there. But remember, like we talked about there, it's not just because it's outdated. There's information that is still good, and it lasts for a long time. And so let's go ahead and get into this. And so the introductions is that he talks about in the book, he says humans are wired to cooperate and compete. And sometimes we cooperate enthusiastically with people and build enduring bonds with them. So he's trying to say is that, we are social human beings. We need to show who we are sometimes, and we need to show our strengths. And this is kind of why we have competitions. We have the Olympics that these people are training and training and training, and they're going out to see how hard that they can compete. I don't know if it's for a win or a lose mindset, or is it just a way to kind of see what you can do. And I think it's mostly like that. I don't think it's a win or lose, but there's always going to be a winner and a loser if you think about it, if anything you do. And so, it kind of, we perform at our very best when we hold cooperation and competition in the right balance. The best time that you can be yourself is hopefully when you're balanced, not when you're trying to show who has more power than the other people. And that's really hard sometimes because we do that with each other and we try to show that we have too much pride and we want to compete. And sometimes competition is good too. And so we need to find the balance between the two. The two are, competition and cooperation. Is there a balance between the two? Cooperation and competition. And so the ongoing tension between these two emerges from three fundamentals, three fundamental focuses. And the focuses are: one, resources are scarce. Two, humans are social beings. Three, our social world is inherently unstable and dynamic. Or what statisticians call it the holistic effect. We'll talk about that later. It's not important. But these three are kind of like the fundamental forces between the competition and cooperation. And so we're going to talk about those in depth here. But anyway, scarcity is very hard for people. We get scared when something runs out. We try to go and get it as fast as we can, and we get scared sometimes, and it triggers competition. This reaction, and does it mean prosperity and profit? I don't know. So here's an example. If you're probably thinking, what do you mean by this? Think of scarcity. How would you define money? Money is currency, depends on wherever you are, right? We have some kind of things to exchange for another services, right? A $20 bill means that you should have $20 of quality. A dollar means you have a dollar of quality. It just means an even trade. So what is money? How do you define money? Well, many people have discussed this for many years. So I got this from other people too, and I think that what it means, it's scarcity is a money, I should say, is scarcity in demand resources. Think about it. Money is very scarce. I mean, we are always thinking about where is money going to come from? I have to pay the bills. I need money. And so how do you do that? Two, it's like, it's in demand. In demand means it's, here's a currency right now. I need to use it in certain situations. It's a resource. A resource is something that you can use as an advantage to yourself to help you build who you are. And how quickly cooperation can despair when a resource appears to be short supply. We compete for jobs, we compete for education, we compete for food sometimes when it's there. The pandemic, look at the pandemic. We competed for toilet paper in a certain extent. People were making funny videos of toilet paper competitions. And it's crazy, as something runs out, we tend to gravitate towards it because we think that it's our biological initiative. So social, we are very linked between social connection and cognitive functions. We need to be social. We need to have people around us to make us more effective and efficient, and makes us think that we're normal. And they talk about this in those three fundamentals. And we are social human beings. We need to be around other people for connection. And Sigmund Freud said we have to have what we call the pleasure principle. We need to be touched sometimes. We need to be hugged sometimes. We need to hold our hands sometimes, maybe a shoulder. We need that support. And I think that's that connection. So that was the second one. The third one was it was to our social world is inherently unstable and dynamic. It means it's always changing. And we need to kind of be in that mindset that we need to adapt. And if you're not adapting, you're not progressing. Thinking like old technology versus new technology. A lot of people are afraid of AI because of what it's going to do. That's a whole nother ball of wax that we can talk about. But if you think about it, AI is hopefully assisting us rather than demeaning us. So another talk on that. So it's really just this unstable and dynamic initiative is that, think about, if you want to think about this, think about sibling rivalry, your siblings, your brother and sister. Think about who has the power, who has the power into that relationship. We all depends on, sometimes when we're growing up, we depends on our older brothers or sisters because they're the ones that are grown first. They've been through whatever childhood events maybe before you, and you kind of look up to them, right? And they're the first people to kind of get a job, go do this. If a parent dies, they're kind of the responsible one to take over because it's the first sibling in charge, right? And the second sibling kind of goes down from there. But we all have sibling rivalries. We try to be, I'm the smaller brother, so I have to sometimes act like a bigger brother, or the bigger brother sometimes acts like the smaller brother. Depends on how they want to do their routine, their maturity, I guess you can say. So, we need to kind of keep these balance between the three about, cooperation and cooperation. And we try not to compete too much. And you have to keep that levelness. Cooperation is good, but then it leads to competition. And you might not want that. So there was a study on this in the book. I have it marked, but I don't know how much time that's going to take. So I'm going to go ahead and read it anyway, and we're going to kind of go through this. So if you don't know what pernucleus is, I think that's how you would say that. It's a harmful effect. So for example, air pollution is very harmful because it's the pollutants in the air. And so that is very harmful for us, and we are wired to sometimes make them. Now, let's explain this a little. So there was a study, and this study is kind of relating that you're trying to keep that balance of cooperation and competition, right? And you have to have equitable, and having it equal, right? Equal does not mean equitable, because equitable means everybody has the same thing, no matter what. Equally means everything should be balanced. Not everything is balanced in life because people have a different point of view. So I'm going to go ahead and read this to you. It's a little bit long, so hope you don't get too bored on this. But he talks about cooperation, and he says that, or when we compare to. So one reason comparison are so pernicious, which is that harmful, back again, is that we are hardwired to make them. He talks about this university, this university that demonstrated this. And so I might not go into the name with this, but have you ever heard of maybe the capuchin monkeys? It's a capuncin monkeys. And so they don't live very long. They're like 15 to 25 years. I guess that's pretty long for a monkey. They have very round faces. I don't think they're very tall at all. I think they're probably about, maybe this, which is about a couple feet. And they're in South America. And so they did a clever study at this university, and this researcher, he says that he trained his monkeys to use stones, to form of currency and trade with them with the experiment for food. So the experimenter gave him the monkey a stone, and then that was in exchange for food. So the food and the stone were exchanged. So think about this, okay? The exchange worked like this. The experimenter would hold out an open hand. The monkey would drop the stone into the open hand, and the experimenter would then offer the monkey a slice of cucumber. Can you get the picture of this? Is a stone a fair price for a slice of cucumber? What do you think? Maybe. To the monkey it was, as long as every other monkey was getting the same deal. When a solitary monkey exchanged a stone for a piece of cucumber, he ate it with delight and would happily repeat the exchange over and over. Okay, so it's balanced. However, he ran the study again. The condition in which two monkeys in the neighboring cages, so I guess they're in cages, participated in the exchange simultaneously. In one cage, the monkey received the unusual cucumber slice for a stone. Okay. But in the other, the monkey received a sweet, juicy grape for his stone. So now you have a grape. Juicy grape. Monkeys, just like humans, value grapes more than cucumbers, right? Grapes more than cucumbers. Actually, it turns out that the monkeys value grapes a lot more like a cucumber. So we have the same mindset in a way. But here's kind of what happened. Upon seeing this inequalness and this inequity, means you're not equal, you don't see the same things. The monkey who was offered the regular cucumber deal went well as follows. Not only did the monkey who saw his neighbor get a better deal stop paying the stones, even though they threw it back at the experimenter. So he didn't like the cucumber. See? He threw it back. So they were not seeing eye to eye now. Even the experimenter was seeing this, and the monkeys. And so in the case, after receiving the cucumber, a monkey who saw the adjacent monkey receive a grape for the same price threw the cucumber out the cage floor and sculpted into the back of the cage. Getting a picture? The other monkey received into the first monkey's cage, snatched the cucumber, and eagerly consumed both the grape and the cucumber. So he got very flustered and took both. Okay. What this experiment is demonstrating is our evolutionary ancestors did not evaluate their outcomes in isolation. We didn't isolate ourselves. Rather, they evaluated outcomes in a competitive process. So we as human beings, we were never put in cages and individuals. We were always in a group. And I think that's kind of how we become our competition, our engaging, because we didn't figure out this is very unfair. And that is really hard for people. So here's another example. If you don't know basketball, and maybe you weren't born at this time, but in 1979 to 1992, so think back, the Boston Celtics. Who was on the Boston Celtics? Who's played? It was Larry Bird, right? Larry Bird. He admitted this. He admitted this on television, or he admitted this to somebody. The first thing I would do, this is Larry Bird talking, the first thing I would do every morning was look at the box scores. So box scores are like what the person is scoring each game, to see what Magic Johnson, LA Lakers at the time, did. And he would only focus on that. He wouldn't focus on anything else. He would focus on that box score because that's a competition. He wanted to improve himself based on the outcome of that one single person. So you can look this up if you want. But Larry Bird played with, well, he was kind of against Michael Jordan a little bit. They had a little bit of back and forth. But it depends on the audience if you know this or not. But we are very social human beings. We like this. And sometimes your friend and your foe is a little bit different. And the sports are breeding grounds for this. We love competition, and people love to watch that competition because maybe it makes them, kind of alter their brain chemistry, and maybe like to say, hey, hurrah, hurrah. They like to have some competition themselves. And you're trying to find the right balance sometimes, and competition is that way. We are hardwired to seek we like to compare things. We are hardwired to compare things. And I think competition brings out the best of us because we are trying to compare ourselves with who we're against. And sometimes that can be depressing. It can be also relieving too. This helps make our sense of the world, I think. So we seek favorable comparisons if we want to feel happier, and seek unfavorable comparisons if we want to push ourselves harder. So that's good for competition. If you're a person that doesn't like competition, you got to think about what it does to the person himself. It's kind of one of those things that power, Power, we have that darn power, right? And power is, very addicting, and it's hard to give up. Power is the amount of control that one person has over another. And if we're not talking about physics, we're not talking about science, we're talking about personal with power, stuff like that. Not personal power, but kind of way we think of power today, right? We kind of think that power is something you hold over somebody. And power is not static, and it's not fixed. It is dynamic and subjective. And it changes across context. Power changes across context. What does power mean as a parent? What does it mean as an authoritative figure like a teacher or a government employee or a president? We have this power. What does that mean in context? And it's really interesting thing about power is that it's often not how powerful we are, but powerful we feel that demonstrates how we think and act. Ooh, I love that. So sometimes it's the amount of confidence sometimes people have. Power is a very precious by comparison, or power acts almost like a wonder drug, giving you agency and confidence and optimism. Sometimes power can be a good thing too, but it's not important to get too high off your own power. And I think what people do, they're given a little certain power, and then what happens to them? They have the mindset that, hey, you know what? I'm going to use it to my advantage to make myself more, greater. And their power overcomes their brain action, and then they abuse it. So you got to be careful. There's a thing. If you ever study psychology, they have something like if a person is narcissistic. If you don't know what a narcissistic person is, you can look this up. But they think of high, they're very fond of themselves. They think that I'm not the problem. I can do what I want, and I don't have to have any empathy. It's all for me. You can look it up if you like, narcissistic, and we have a little bit of that in each of us today, I think. Because we love to have things for ourselves sometimes, or maybe it's kind of flowing to that direction. And they think that bulliness came from that. So a bully has so much narcissistic power or so much self-esteem that they think highly of themselves. And I think that's what bullying happens too. They think that, I can do what I want. That's something you can look up if you want. So they kind of talk about in the book here, humans are inherently social beings. So we're talking about those fundamentals, right? Still, hope you remember those. And it's really that some researchers believe humans evolved into the ultra social species because cooperative groups inhibit our ancestors to cooperate with the evolutionary rivals. So the people that came, people began to mix together and flew and make the system work collaboratively. So we have to have some structure, but you also have some hierarchy. You have to have stages, levels, and that makes a stable working government, I guess, right? And some people don't like that because they don't like how the higher ups are controlling all the things, and we have a lot of controversy over that. And so people desire a sense of order and control. We do. If it wasn't for stoplights, what would happen to us? We would go, do what we want, and crash. Some people don't even follow the lights, and they hopefully get in trouble for it. And we have that in order. Look at when we go to like a fun attraction like Disneyland or Disney World or whatever adventure. Do you know what's there? The little for lines. I forgot what they are. The line controllers, I think that's how you call them. We have that for order because if we didn't, people would do their own little thing. So I think that's very interesting is that over time we had to have some structure because if it would, we would have chaos. And it's the people that don't want to follow that structure, it makes it really hard on people to make the system flow. So we desire that. And so kind of come into this, we have like a pecking order, right? A pecking order. A pecking order means, here's the first, second, third, fourth, fifth. When you start a new job, you're not going to just be placed way up here on the pecking order. No, you have to be placed down here. We don't like doing that, but you have to build up to it. And I think it takes time. And sometimes we get kind of impatient and we don't want to keep going. We think that, if I don't do something in the first 8 months, I'm not going to make an impact. Okay, be patient and keep trying. And so in the book, it says it's good to be the queen, but it's easier to be the king. Okay, and it's these descriptive stereotypes, these stereotypes of what one is likely to do. People like to say, I'm the king, I'm the queen, and stuff like that. Well, the king is better than the queen. Not very necessarily. It depends on how you're describing the power. And it's not just the power remember, it's not just about the label, it's about what the person underneath that does it. It's not the suit, it's the person that wears the suit. So it's really interesting how names can bond and bully. So they have another chapter in this and how names can bond and bully. So the names we use to help us connect with our friends, they can help us glue, bind us together or not. The Latin verb discere means to teach, by the way. And the first person referred to as doctors were astropauls, who taught others about the Bible. So, kind of think about what a doctor is and how a doctor became. Doctors are, smart. They knew the body. They knew how to replenish. They knew how to rebuild, replace, not replace, but like attach, attach the body up, cure the body, I guess. That was the doctors. And where did they get their information from? And the use of this term soon spread to people. You got to read the book on this one. It's kind of hard to explain. But the names of doctors, they're here to help. And so I'm going to keep going. That's very vague. I'm sorry about that. How do we get others to put their trust into you? So remember, we're talking about friend and foe. And trust is a very big concept because trust means that you are willing to put your values, I can't think of another word between trust, into that person, right? And so, trust makes friends until you break that trust. And then you don't, well, we're not friends anymore because you did this, you did this. It takes a long time to build trust. Trust is earned to a certain extent, right? And so it's very responsible for social interactions. And so in many ways, it's like a social lubricant. It keeps us bonded together with that trust. And conventional wisdom says that there's two things about trust. One, that trust is slow to develop. Two, that once broken, trust, like a vase, is almost impossible to repair. Like a vase, if it breaks, it's really hard to put back the pieces. I think that's really cool to how they describe that. So research shows that people who inspire to the most trust are those who exhibit two distinct traits. So you can really trust somebody. They require this. We trust competent people because they are credible, effective, and efficient. We look up to them. And they're warm and effective. So to find trust, somebody that's really credible, effective, and efficient, but also has warmth and efficient. Who do we think about? Parents. We think about doctors. Doctors might not be warm, but they've been credible. It's hard to define. So it's the perceptions of that too. So this opening statement, it's really how we speak sometimes, and we speak and really puts trust into people we look up to, because people judge in how you speak. And so that becomes a lot with trust as well. What you're saying, what kind of words you're describing you and the person you're coming across. And the context does matter on this. And so they have another chapter, when and how to raise your guard. I'm not going to talk about too much on this, but I am going to I'm going to show you this one because it's when and how to raise your guard. So I'm going to give you an example, what I kind of got from the books. Think of like eating a chocolate cake, and you want to resist this temptation of eating this chocolate cake. Maybe you are on a diet or something like that. And what do you need for that? You need self-control, right? And this is not true just for cheating. So they talk about cheating in the book. And so if you have a person that cheats the system or cheats on you sometimes, you're not going to find that person very valuable. And so they don't have that self-control to resist temptation. And so when you try to find something, or try to find somebody, I should say, you look for that self-control. They're not willing to eat everything in front of you or take everything away from you, and you want to build up that trust. And so I think that's a good chapter to be on your guard as a person, a friend, or a foe, I guess. And you got to be careful of deceptions. And deceptions are very bad sometimes. And so you kind of want to lay out those red flags sometimes. And you also want to kind of look at the inappropriate behavior of your friend. Are they running for the exits very fast? Are they trying to escape a conversation? This is where the chapter, they're trying to kind of build up your group a little bit. Maybe they are overcompensating. They're trying to get to the top. They're trying to elaborate on themselves so much. Maybe they're trying to mismatch between body language and words. Maybe what they say is not very correct, and they're using very bad body language for that. They're just lying to you. So I think that's what this little section is that they're trying to build up that guard so you have the right friend, or you have a foe. And so you're kind of putting all these pieces together. And so I know I'm kind of running over here a little bit, but they have a chapter in the books called Putting the Pieces Back Together. And they have what we call, you can look this up, it's called the apology formula. Apology, like I'm sorry formula. And the key ingredients of successful apologies. Well, here's the recipe for successful apologies. 1, speed. When you screw up, time is an essence. So think about this. When somebody wants to apologize to you, don't you think of time? Oh, they should, you waited 3 weeks to say you're sorry. So time. Next one is candor. I'm just going to read these to you before I describe them. What about that? So speed, candor, vulnerability, focus, promise to change, and penance. So those are the 6. So speed, I kind of gave that to you. 2 is candor. It's just really how you disclose what went wrong. You're disclosing what went wrong. You're not just beating around the bush. You're being narrow-minded, right, on that. Vulnerability. When it comes to rebuilding that trust, people become very vulnerability when their trust is not very made. Next one is that you're focused on the victim that got the bad part about it. Maybe that victim was brutally abused and stuff like that, and you're not putting the focus onto that. You're not saying that apologies. You're just defending yourself, I guess. Next one is like people promise to change when they feel sorry. When you feel sorry, the person that's saying sorry, are they willing to change for what they did? You mean like become more aware? Maybe they don't want to say that word again. You ever thought about that? How they are changing when they feel sorry. So next time when you're around people and maybe they bump into you or something like that, and the person says, I'm sorry, think about those little things. The speed, the cancer, and also the change. Are they going to do that again? Maybe it's just out there, I don't know. And then it really tries to, the next one, it's anything that involves making amends with that victim. You're trying to make amends. I'm making it up to you. I bumped you. Oh, I'm so sorry I bumped into you. Or I lied to you. That's hard. I won't lie to you again, I promise. And they finger cross or something like that. I don't know. So we go through these stages of trying to be adaptable, right? And remember, that's what the topic is. Remember, we're still trying to balance cooperation and cooperation and competition. Sorry, cooperation. We're still trying to balance these two, cooperation and competition. So, kind of going to the end here is that we go through these, and timing is everything, but it's also how you act too. Acting is how we act depends on how we are in life. And they kind of go through the end of this chapter or end of this book. They say that when to start your engines. So when to start your engines. Although we typically make choices that reflect our preferences, when we are on the fence, we are looking for any shortcuts or signals. The order of things count. Just like a movie poster, we see the nature and focus first on the what? The actors. When we look at a poster in the movie theater, we focus on the actors that are playing that. This will make sense in a little bit. So time is everything to deal with occurrences that happen. And so there's 2 principles here that I want to talk about. The information and the anchoring. And what this is talking about, an anchor is a numeric value that we influence subsequent evaluations. It is called the anchor because it's quite literally just to put the judgments in that direction. So when you kind of want to get to know somebody or get to know a movie poster, right? What do you look at? You look at the details in the mix. So you go into a movie and you think about, oh, it has this person, this person, this person. Oh, I love those 3 people. So I'm gonna look into that movie. Or I meet somebody. Oh, you're pretty. You have you look athletically shaped. Oh, you're very polite. You have a nice voice. You look trustworthy. You talk the game. Don't we do that all the time? So we're looking for that constant information and that anchoring information. The anchoring is like the hard stuff that we're looking for. I think that's what they're talking about here. So you got to do your due diligence first when you want to kind of trust somebody or get to be a friend. And stop being so competitive. And so how to cross the finish line, last bit of this. The ending matters on all this. Sometimes it's not how you start, it's how you end, right? And it is what you remember most about the event or experience that makes the most impact of anything. And it's how that experience ends profoundly influences how we remember it. Remember, emotion is everything. Emotion is one of the biggest things that we have in the human brain. We have emotions, and those emotions do remember what we did. And it's, how we hear those words too that start us. So I think what the end of this is, I'm sorry to go a little longer. This is, like I said, this is just a lengthy book. You're trying to keep that balance between the cooperation and the competition, and we build on competition because it makes us a lot easier, makes us a lot better for ourselves, and maybe we like to show off too. But you don't judge a book by its cover too fast. Build that trust. Make small adjustments in your life. Sometimes don't let the anxiety get the best of you, because we do that when we think highly of ourselves. And you want to kind of get friends too, and not many foes. But sometimes that your enemy becomes your friend, or I think the enemy of my enemy is also my friend. So sometimes that you're trying to balance the both of these, and we all have those friends that we don't really like. And sometimes we have to make small adjustments for them because they're in our social group. And is that really lying to us? I don't know. You can think about that. If it's lying to us, like if I'm lying to my group because I have to like this one person, I don't know. Interesting book. So hope that you kind of get this. I think I'm going to keep this book. I think it has a lot of value into it. So sorry to go a little bit longer than usual, but I think it's good. Sometimes you just can't say things in a short amount of time. So hope you enjoy, and hope you're watching more. Thank you.